folks. My name is Girish Bali, the host for Back2Basics, another day to another Back to Basics. Today we're going to be talking about humanity. Yes, humanity and crisis and humanity. And those are the words that we'll be using that today. But we'll be also talking about concept, ideas, intelligence. Those are another words that we'll be talking about that today. And I'll tell you why. We'll get into that also. So today we have a guest. His name is Anthony A. an amazing person that I spoke with weeks back. And we understand each other as what this whole thing is all about and what this whole process is all about. So thank you again for that, Tony. And I just wanted to say to everyone, just be kind to everyone. And that's what we're trying to do here. So guys, as usual, how are you, Tony? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. I go by Tony. Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so Tony, thank you again for that. Before we start, what does Back to Basics mean to you?
Back to Basics fits right in with what we do. We're here to seek human sustainability by literally learning about who we are by way of exploration of our evolutionary timeline, the clarity of which is now available to us, clarity that we didn't have 50 years ago. So getting back to basics fits because we need to learn who we are if we want to determine where we want to be. So, on a macro level, certainly back to basics fits. That's what we're doing here, because if human beings do not learn what is now knowable, they will not. We're going to have a tough time evolving to sustainability.
Yeah. So thank you again, Tony, for being here, and thank you for supporting me on my podcast here. Noēsis is a foundation that you started, and then we know that it's a Greek word, and we know that the definition is concept, intelligence, and idea, right? So I'm not even going to ask you that because someone needs to do their homework on that part. But where did this come from? I mean, there are other words besides this Greek word, right? And why Oēsis? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I wish I had a greater story for you than this one.
Okay.
But in the interest of honesty, we couldn't get a couple other names.
Okay.
What I mean? So Noēsis is a Greek word for the arrival place of intelligence and understanding. If we have, where we would like to take everybody. And it was a word that we felt fit, but frankly, it was our second or third choice. And that's the way it goes. Sometimes when you're starting something, you can't get everything that you want because the domains are taken and so forth.
Yeah, thank you again, Tony, for answering that question. It seems like the foundation and the idea and the whole foundation started first, and then the name came later. I think that's the sense I'm getting from you.
Absolutely, that's precisely correct.
Yeah. Thank you again, Tony, for that. I've been studying your foundation and what you're trying to do and what's happening there, right? Is it really that we're in a crisis of a humanity crisis? And why is that? Is it because of too many demographic around us, and we're not getting into the value graphic world? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the idea that humanity is experiencing an existential crisis of its own making is not a hard sell in any way. That's why Noēsis we like to say Noēsis is now. When that statement, the fact that human beings are navigating an existential crisis, when that no longer surprises anyone, I would think that right there would be a real good time for us to come into existence.
Yeah, so Tony, let me ask you this, because there was one sentence, by the way, thank you again for answering that.
Sure.
There's a sentence that you mentioned on your website, and it's called, "The only light to future is that of the past." Now, the question now is, when did you think that we were in a crisis mode? Or it's been like that for the longest time, and did we just realize that today?
In a broad sense, I think it's fair to say that the human species, humanity, whatever, we say mankind, humanity, humankind, all meaning 8 billion people currently living on planet Earth. It's my consideration that humankind has only recently awakened to its own madness, if you will. And I don't mean madness in a judgmental way. I believe that we've had our nose to the acquisitive grindstone, if you will. We've had our nose to acquisition over the last 10,000 years, and we haven't looked up. And only recently did we look up in a metaphorical way and look around and realize that we've made a little bit of a mess of things. But if we get into blame and judgment, we bring no value. So the idea, human sustainability is a subject whose time has clearly come. We need to evolve to sustainability. It is, as I will explain to you in this conversation, human beings are not sustainable in any discernible way whatsoever. And we never really have been, for very knowable, traceable reasons. We are fact-based. We do not deploy theory because a very stressed humankind suddenly has no luxury of theory. We need answers. So we are fact-based, and as risky as we'll get is something that stands directly to reason.
But Tony, thank you again. But this is just my observation. There are other foundations doing a similar thing, but how is it different than how you're doing it compared to others? Can you explain that to folks on that?
Yeah, certainly can. Human beings have 4 major categories of anxiety, if you will. When I say humanity has anxiety in 4 areas, I will name them: climate change, pandemic, certainly, disruptive technologies was kind of snuck in there recently. This is where our computers decided they no longer need us. And the 4th one is obviously the nuclear concern. So we've got a 4-legged stool of human anxiety. Along comes Noēsis to gently point out that if we were to assuage, if we were to conquer all of those concerns, we would unfortunately awaken to the horror that what we forgot to do was to get out of the way of ourselves, our very nature. Because there have been 60, 70 major human cultures on this planet. All of them are gone. All of them were defeated by the same precise phenomenon. None of them had nuclear concerns. None of them had climate change concerns. All of them were disassembled and destroyed by perpetual conflict.
But Tony, thank you again for that. But the thing that what I'm trying to understand is that it seems like that all these things are mankind made, and those are the problems that we came up with. But then what about the climate? The climate, it seems like it's changing, right? And what I noticed during the COVID time, we've been on lockdown mode and we're inside, right? Mm-hmm. I noticed that the air quality got better. So what are your thoughts on that part? Because it seems like we are the ones who are actually killing the world, and we're the ones who are building this crisis. So it's like a catch-22. How do we stop people from doing the crisis? Does that make sense?
I need to unfortunately, respectfully divert. I need to do that. I sometimes need to do this, and I'm very careful how I do it.
Okay, sure.
I want to explain that were we to, we can talk about climate change all day. I'm happy to, but I'm here to explain that if we defeat climate change, we will not have in any way have taken ourselves any closer to sustainable future. A sustainable future for humanity is not reachable in any way under current circumstances, no matter what future concerns that we conquer, like climate change. Let's live in fantasy for a second. Let's say that all four of those things were under control. Noēsis is here to say that human beings would be no more sustainable than we are right now, because we get out of the way of our symptoms, but we can't get out of the way of our disease. And the nature of what has always taken down human cultures is well known now, whereas it was not known before. It couldn't have been known because our evolutionary timeline was not as exposed as it is. So we're in the past. We are laboring in the past to understand the evolutionary timeline of the human species, and to also determine the totality of evolutionary influence upon modern human behavior. We can both agree that we both got to our present moment today by a progression. And that progression started when we got out of bed. And the same is true for 8 billion human beings. But the same is also true for our entire species. We have a beginning, and we progressed from that beginning. When we were born, you and I, we were the 200,000th generation of human beings evolving on this planet. So we have 200,000 generations of prior human beings pressing down on our present moments at all time. These impulses and compulsions that go along with that they activate many, many times faster than the thinking brain. So we're overwhelmed out of the gate. I'm trying to explain that the only light to mankind's future is that of our past. I mean that we need to know who we are. And that opportunity is open to us now, whereas it never was before. We have a window of self-discovery. It is in our evolutionary timeline. That's where the answers to what drives modern human behavior lies. If we do not examine that, if we do not know who we are, if we do not abandon certain delusions that we have, we cannot hope in any way but to collapse into this patterns.
But Tony, I want to ask you a question. You said that we need to learn our past, which means that we need to know our history. But the way the world is going, the way we're listening to other people, is that they're modifying the history books. So how do we know what's right and what's wrong? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, they can modify history books all they want.
Yeah.
We look at history books. History books explain are all situational based, aren't they? We read about the situations of human failure. It occurred to me long ago that if you read 5 history books, you will at some point come to understand that you're reading the same play with different actors. Truly, as in, like, human failure occurs in eerily precise fashion. When we are in the presence of precision of any kind, mechanics by their nature are mathematical things. So when human cultures have all come into being, rose to prominence, rode a wave, and then decayed and were taken down and destroyed by eerily precise events, we are in the presence of a socio-mathematical constant. So we're reading history books. We're missing the point. We're reading about the variables that descend from a constant. The constant is what we need to look for. It is knowable. Matter of fact, if you look, when we just figured out where to look for it, and I'll explain that, it'll jump right out and bite you. You can't unsee it. So there is a constant at work in human cultures. It is mathematically preordained to fail. And we have 75 major human cultures behind us to provide ample evidence of that.
But Tony, thank you again, Tony, for answering that question. You know what I noticed is that all the definitions and what you are explaining right now, have you realized that the words that you're using is more mathematical words? Because that you came from a finance world. So do you think the way you're designing this whole thing is through your mathematical thought process of this?
No, a socio-mathematical constant takes down human cultures without fail. It is very, very descriptive. Would you like me to describe it?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. I would love to know.
Okay, here it is, right here. Human beings are, in fact, and by the way, I would ask anybody in advance, respectfully, to please defeat this. Please defeat what I'm about to say. That would mean that I would be out of business and I could get back to the golf course. I'm a retired gentleman. Okay. Something happened to human beings that derailed us. We are, in fact, acting in a clinically unnatural fashion. I will explain how we did that. Human beings have traced their origins back to the African Congo Basin. That is a central assumption here. If someone does not share that assumption, we would accept that without reservation. However, that is our central assumption. Human beings, in fact, have their origin in the African Congo Basin. We then, it took 275,000 years as Homo sapien to make our way all around the globe in a highly, highly collaborative fashion. If we did not collaborate in our journey, we would die. So collaborate or die is in human DNA. All right, that inarguable fact would be challenged by an event that is literally got a spotlight on it now. About 10,000 years ago, by that time, mankind had gotten to all areas of the globe. And what we did then was very logical. We began to settle down in larger and larger populations. Wandering and nomadic humans became stationary humans. The dynamics associated with wandering nomadic humans and stationary humans were so utterly different that they ignited no less than a psychic insult to human DNA, a biological insult. Specifically, as our populations grew, that was helped along by an agricultural awakening. We domesticated large animals. We domesticated dogs to manage them. And the first elements of control, societal control, intruded upon the human experience for the first time. It was nobody's fault. Blame, judgment have no utility here. None. In problem solving for sustainability, there is no blame or judgment. There is only observation. So these growing populations now needed to control these growing populations. So logically, elements of control fell in. Also, we took up acquisitive behavior. Collaboration yielded slowly to acquisition as our populations grew. Again, a logical event. These are random events. Nobody got together and decided to ruin the human race. So that's not what's going on. We experienced a psychic insult and a biological insult to our collaborative DNA when a class-based meritocracy intruded upon the human experience. lesser beings were created, greater beings were deluded that they were greater. Now we had crossed over from natural hierarchies to financial meritocracy, quite frankly. And lesser beings would go on to collapse and destroy every single stationary human culture after that. There are no exceptions. I want to make this clear. You asked me about mathematical. I go right back to it. I'm describing a socio-mathematical constant that has no exceptions whatsoever. And further, these exact models, all the models that took down every single human culture ever to exist, and there have been about 70 major ones, those same models are all over us today on a global level. The idea that we're going to escape this, I'm afraid I cannot concur. We need to understand what happened to us, something that's knowable. If we do not understand what happened to us, and if we do not understand the totality of evolutionary influence on our behavior today, we will always collapse into the same mathematical patterns. Eerie precision equals mathematical. Okay. Our cultures fail. We then construct new cultures from the ashes, and those new cultures have a real bad habit of looking like the old one, and fast. It's illogical, isn't it? It's not. There's no logical flow to it. We infer easily. We deduce easily. That something that's happening in an area of our brains that's not consciously accessible to us is driving this. Why? Because the thinking brain in its present moment always chooses what's logical. That's why nobody puts on their shoes first and then their socks. The thinking brain chooses what's logical as a matter of survival. So when we construct new cultures that look like the old ones that failed, there is no logical flow. We deduce easily that something's going on. It's a constant. It's unseen. And it's no longer unseen. It's traceable, describable in great detail.
No, go ahead, please.
That's all. This goes back to you saying, Tony, do you hear yourself being mathematical? I most certainly do. We are fact-based. We are socio-mathematicians. We are not here to judge or blame anyone because human beings do not respond to blame. Blame is in fact a threat. It is rejected with more than equal and opposite force. We deduce again here that this is not logical what we do. So we deduce again that these are economic models and not solutions. Okay, so we've essentially monetized what has always destroyed us. We didn't mean to. We didn't know better. Okay. Notice again, extraction of blame and judgment of any kind. We need to understand these dynamics. And if we don't, we will perish by our inaction. And I would love to be defeated in that regard.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again, Tony, for explaining that, and it makes total sense as to what I asked and what I got. So thank you again for explaining that. So slowly we're getting towards the end of the show. So thank you again, Tony, for coming here. But one quick thing. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Because it seems like you have done your, you've been in the financial institute for a while, and then you're doing this for the last couple of years now. Where do you see yourself, or is this for the next 5 years?
I will. I'll take it way beyond that. As long as I'm drawing oxygen, I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing now. Because of what we're able to know, this group, Noēsis, is a nonprofit. We intend to partner with every country on the face of this planet under a banner that we now can, in fact, partner under. Let's look at the other banners and ask ourselves if we can partner under them. Can we partner politically? Certainly not. We will not try what is not doable. Can we partner religiously? Again, why would we ever go there? Number 3, culturally, can we partner? No, we're not ready. But how about species preservation? Are we ready for that? We're going to find out, aren't we, Garish? We're going to find that out. There is a 4th banner approaching us now out of the mist, getting bigger and bigger. The mortality of our species is vaguely visible to all of us. We sense it. We are helpless against it because we do not understand its dynamics, and I would suggest we do, or it will swallow us whole. During this conversation, about 3 species went extinct. The Earth loses 150 species a day. 99.9% of every living thing that's ever been on this planet is gone. The idea that this could not happen to us is preposterous. The idea that it's necessary is also preposterous. We are here to steer an essentially helpless humanity over the course of decades away from the rocks that are known as, if we get to the rocks, obviously the lights are out. We're not worried about extinction. We're worried about a much more sinister concern, and that is something that's called commitment to extinction. All 5 billion species that have gone extinct committed to their demise long before the last of their kind fell. If human beings commit themselves to something that from which we cannot return, we won't know it. We feel that we can cheat this data. We can't. That is a very dangerous and deadly thing to, I think we're on an inertia that believes that we're going to figure it out. No, sir. We're not going to figure it out. We will use a process to extract ourselves from a process that got us here. A very knowable process, knowable in great detail. We don't know how we got here, and we don't know how we're leaving. What sentient creature would not fear that reality? And what sentient creature would not fear the deterioration of that reality? So this goes back to mathematical. We bring no value by running around on a stage explaining that everybody's going to die. That's it. The whole thing behind this is that what we're trying to do is explain to the entire globe that this idea that we have to experience an epic failure to evolve, we won't play. We don't see any reason why humanity has to bottom out with what we're able to know about ourselves. So these truisms, we're just not open for business for these things. We're here to push for human sustainability under the banner of species preservation, while asking a globe to give up otherwise nothing, not in the short term.
Yeah, Tony, thank you again for explaining all the stuff that you're going to be doing, and I really hope that you're going to go flow and start, going around the world to spread the word on what your mission is. So thank you again for that, and thank you for coming on Back to Basics too, and supporting me and my mission. And hopefully, you and I will, follow on our ways and be there too. Go ahead, Tony.
We would love to partner with anyone. This is a partnership, not. We're not dictating what has to be here. No, we are a friend to humanity. We're a stranger also, and humans don't trust strangers. So until it's known that we are a friend, I won't take it personally in any way that people don't know yet that we are a friend. So we'll continue to do what we do. I also saw one of your questions, and I wanted to answer. One of the questions was, what's my worst fear? If you don't mind, I'd like to answer that. My worst fear is being misunderstood. Like any other human being, I want to be understood. I want to be liked like anybody else. I'm human. Being misunderstood would mean that people wouldn't understand that we are here to help. We are here to help. We are remedial. We are hopeful. However, like any doctor, we need to lay out the concerns, and we cannot soft pedal these concerns. But we are here to open a window of human sustainability that would seek first to determine the evolutionary influence on our present moments and how we cannot be expected to defeat what activates 20 times faster than the thinking brain.
Yeah, Tony, thank you again for explaining all that, and thank you for being here on the show. And it's great to know you for sure. And I will definitely follow your work and all the stuff that you do. So thank you again, Tony, for being here and supporting me.
Please contact me anytime. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again.
Take care.
Guys, we spoke with Tony today, and we talked about the basics of mankind, didn't we? The humanity. And we need to know the history, don't we? Because you know what, it's all about mathematical and how we came about and how the whole history is. And it's all factual. And he's all about facts, and he's all about math, and that's just what it is. Now, here's the quote of the day from Back to Basics, and hopefully Tony will like the quote of the day. The quote of the day is, "The destiny of the world's civilization depends upon providing a decent standard of living for all mankind." So guys, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on commenting on all the episodes, including this one, because it helps me to understand that you guys are listening. And the three things in every episode, including this one, according to me, it's a hit, which is because of the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on supporting me on all the episodes today, and thanks for coming to Back to Basics, and see you next week. Take care, God bless.
Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
For me, I don't get any income from doing that. I don't have any sponsors. I openly say that on that podcast. And so I ask people to donate. And I say, if you like this ministry, if it's helping you, if you believe in what I'm doing, and if you want to support this show, I have a donate button on the website. And so people do contribute to me that way. But again, I've been doing that show every week for more than 3 years now. And it really is going to depend on what your subject matter is. If you're sitting around doing movie reviews, I don't know if people would just take money out of their pocket and donate it to you through PayPal.